Court is now in session. We will now begin closing arguments, starting with the prosecution. Lauren Reich, you may now proceed.
Thank you. Ayala Yule has lived a hard life in cruel poverty and ignorance. However, due to her carelessness and not wanting to face the consequences of her actions, as well as her habitual lying, she ended an innocent man's life, Tom Robinson. For this, you must convict Mayella Yule of involuntary manslaughter. The defendant did not want to face the consequences of being shunned by society, and she did not want to be looked down upon for breaking a time-honored code in their society by attempting to seduce a black man. She then carelessly pushed the blame and evidence away from her, knowing full well the consequences of what she was doing would lead to the death of Tom Robinson. But she did it anyway. Like Mr. Finch said, Tom Robinson was a dead man the minute Mayella Yule opened her mouth and screamed. She was so careless that even though she was mighty banged up, nobody went to get a doctor for her, nor did she go to the doctor. There is no medical evidence that proves or backs up that the defendant was injured and beaten up in this way. The defendant has also lied, making it possible to convict Mr. Robinson in the first place. She even lied under oath. The foundation of her lies are based on the injuries she had sustained, which Tom Robinson was incapable of doing. Mr. Tate had said her arms were bruised. She claimed that the person who had raped and beaten her had used both of their arms to hold her two arms down. Mr. Tate had also said that there were definite marks on her gullet, and that they were all around her neck. By doing a reenactment of what that would look like, and through the knowledge of knowing that Tom Robinson is a cripple, we can prove that the defendant is lying. The defendant also claimed that the right side of her face was beaten, and we know that Tom Robinson's left arm was totally useless to him. Once again, the defendant lied. She had many opportunities to tell the truth, yet she continued in her lies and withheld the truth. Still, in other claims within the defendant's testimony, she had said that her papa had told her to chop up a chiffon robe for kindling. In her father's testimony, he had gone off into the woods to get some kindling. It doesn't make any sense. Why would her papa tell her to chop up an old chiffon robe for kindling if he had gone into the woods for that very purpose? While the defendant will want to lead the jury to consider her plight of abuse at the hands of her father as a way out of being accountable for her carelessness and lies, Tom Robinson is not able to speak of his terrible plight in the events that led to his preventable death. And while the defendant did not pull the physical gun trigger, she did pull the trigger of false claims that put Mr. Robinson into a position where there never needed to be a gun in the first place. The continued stubbornness of her web of lies is the bullet that ended a black man's struggle to prove his innocence in this white-dominated world. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it is the small things like this that show the carelessness of the defendant and how it is for that very reason that the defendant is guilty of involuntary manslaughter. For it was because of her carelessness in ignoring the severe consequences and her web of lies that Tom Robinson is dead today. Please, now is the time to show the late Tom Robinson that truth prevails and to give his family the justice they deserve. Thank you.
We will now have a 10-minute recess. Thank you. Thank you, prosecution. We will now turn to the defense. Audrey Pridgeon, you may now proceed.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the defendant Mayella Yule is innocent in the murder of Tom Robinson. Mr. Robinson chose to end his own life when he ran out of the courtroom. Tom Robinson tried to escape because he wanted to get out of the punishment that was in store. Who could blame him? He was already proven guilty, and getting shot multiple times would be easier and less painful than, say, being hung in front of the whole town. It is common knowledge, or at least should be, that the guard's job is to maintain peace and security and contain prisoners. If any prisoner, not just Tom, were trying to escape, the guards would do what they can to stop it from happening. The guards shot Mr. Robinson because that is their job, and they don't know what he was capable of. Mayella did not pull the trigger that fired the shots that killed Tom Robinson. Some might argue that Mayella is the reason Tom died, that events that led up to his death were all caused by Mayella. If Mayella didn't accuse Mr. Robinson of those things, he wouldn't have been in court. Some even say that Mayella lied just to put her guilt onto Tom. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is not an argument of whether or not the defendant used evidence against Tom Robinson to make him guilty. It is whether or not she actually murdered him. Witnesses can prove that she did not physically shoot him. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to show that Mayella Ewell is innocent in the murder of Tom Robinson.
Thank you, defense. Court is now adjourned. We will reconvene once the jury has reached a verdict. Thank you. Thank you for your statements. We will now turn to the defense. Audrey Pridgeon, you may now begin.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the defendant, Mayella Ewell, is innocent in the murder of Tom Robinson. Mr. Robinson chose to end his own life when he ran out of that courtroom. Tom Robinson tried to escape because he wanted to get out of the punishment that was in store. Who could blame him? He was already...
I'm sorry, can we start over?
I'm going to hurt you.
It was your fault. You made me laugh.
Thank you for your statements. We will now turn to the defense. Audrey Pridgeon, you may now proceed.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the defendant, Mayella Ewell, is innocent in the murder of Tom Robinson.
Sorry.
We will get it.
I think I said one or two words too. And we'll watch all this through and see if we can what we can do. Because I also have to add the whichever one.
Okay. What is this? Third time? No, this is fine.
Take 4! Action!
All right, go. All right. Ready?
It was still recording.
No, it's not recording now.
Yes, it is.
Is it?
Sure.